Alright, hey guys, the Ultimate Freezer here, back with another video. Today's going to be the start of a new video series for my channel today, and that's going to be on video games that I've purchased recently. So it's going to be like a selection of the video games that have recently come out, like something quite recent. Going back to retro games that I've been after, so going back, could be from such a game series that I'm after, or maybe just some retro games in general. I'm going to start off with on a high, and that's going to feature 27 games in this episode from 4 different systems. So let's get this video started. Now, the first selection of games I'm going to show you are going to be a selection of PlayStation 1 games, and the story of how I come into these is basically a relative of mine recently moved, and when they was clearing out their loft they come across their old PlayStation 1 and games, because they used to play the PlayStation 1 in the 90s, and they basically said, "Do you want it? Otherwise it's only going to literally get chucked in the bin." And I was like, well, yeah, definitely. So not only did I get a selection of games, I got a PlayStation 1 console, a couple of controllers and a memory card. Now unfortunately some of the games have had some damage done to them over the years, and unfortunately a few of the games are kind of, I'd say, filler games. They're not really great games, as I will show you. But there are a few gems in this collection for sure. But the games that I will go through very quickly. We've got Actual Golf 3, Championship Manager, a snooker game, Jimmy White's 2, V-Rally. I actually used to play this game quite a bit back in the 90s. Pretty good 3D rally racing game. And probably not as good as like Sega Rally, but quite enjoyable. This one's pretty destroyed. This is actually Mortal Kombat Trilogy, but the actual front of it's missing. I have no idea where that went, but the back's still intact. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? The Weakest Link. TOCA Touring Car Championship 1 and 2. Die Hard Trilogy. Now, I used to own this game on the Sega Saturn, so I have played this one before, and I remember it was not a bad game. Had some enjoyable moments. It was basically, it had 3 games in it from all 3 films. I think probably my favourite was the second one on here, because it was sort of like a light gun game, sort of a bit like a Time Crisis or House of the Dead, but not overly terrible. Ridge Racer Revolution. I have played this one. Don't remember too much about it, whether it was good or not. Yeah. Now we come to the first gem in the collection by far, and that is a game called Tombi. Now, I absolutely love this game. It's probably one of my favourite games from the PlayStation 1. Unfortunately, it only has the game, the case, the manual and the disc. I don't have the full contents to it. But it's basically a 2D side-scrolling platformer, and it was absolutely fantastic with really cartoony graphics. And it's also a game that's actually come quite rare over the years. I've seen mint condition copies fetching over about 100 quid on eBay. I haven't played the second one. I would like to. It's something I'd like to get around to. And yeah, really highly recommend this game if you're after a PlayStation 1 game perhaps you haven't heard, or you want to check out and you're a platformer fan. Definitely check that out. Second game in the collection, Final Fantasy VII. Now, this is actually a game I've never actually played, so I know this is sort of renowned as being perhaps the best Final Fantasy out of the entire series. Can't say for certain, I haven't ever played it. I've only ever seen bits of it. But to own it in my collection now is pretty awesome. Medieval. Now, I have played this game before, and I remember it being quite a good game. Sort of like a 3D platformer. From what I remember, I haven't obviously played this for at least 15 years or so. Kind of like a sort of Crash Bandicoot, but a bit more mature. It has got a kind of mature in the older rating that they had on these games. I have played Medieval 2 as well, but I don't have that in the collection. The Lion King Simba's Mighty Adventure. Now, I've actually played and completed this game before, and I remember it being quite good. The Lion King on the Mega Drive is actually a really good platformer, although insanely hard. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest platformers I've ever played. And this is sort of more of a 3D version of it, featuring, I think it's both the Lion King 1 and 2. So yeah. And the last game in my PlayStation 1 collection is The Lost World, the Jurassic Park. Pretty bad condition case, had a bit of a crack there. This is another one of those games that I haven't played on the PlayStation 1, but I have played it on the Sega Saturn. And I remember it being quite a good game. Hard at times, but yeah, I've never actually completed it though. Now moving on to a next selection of games. If you've seen my entire video game room tour on my channel, you'll see that I'm quite the fan of Resident Evil. And I'm kind of on a mission to see if I can get hold of all the games that were released, or at least one version of each of the games. So the first one that I've recently picked up is Resident Evil 0, the Archives Edition on the Wii. Yeah, so Resident Evil 0, really good game. However, this version, maybe not so. If you're playing this on the Wii U on a HD television, it looks awful. I don't exactly know why, but the conversion of it going to the Wii and then to the Wii U and then scaling it to a HD television, it just sort of has a complete fuzzy blur over the entire screen. I'd recommend picking up, if you want to pick this game, I'd recommend picking up the GameCube version of it and playing it on either a GameCube or a Wii. It plays a lot better on a screen. But yeah, otherwise, really fantastic game. I have Resident Evil Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. So yeah, I used to own this at one point, but I had to get rid of it at some point. So obviously must have get some money for something. Fantastic game. I remember actually playing this when it first came out. I was literally blown away by it. Resident Evil 3 on the Dreamcast. Another obviously brilliant game. In great condition as well. I think I only need Resident Evil 2 now on Dreamcast to complete the Dreamcast collection. I have Resident Evil 2 on the PlayStation 1 in fantastic condition, apart from one little crack there. So yeah, I think I'm still after 1, 3, as well as Survivor. I think that was all that was on the PlayStation 1. Yeah, I think so. Also, I have a Japanese copy of Resident Evil 2. Obviously they call it Biohazard, so Biohazard 2. And this is really interesting. Not only is it in fantastic condition, but it's got some pretty good interests inside. The discs look pretty interesting because it actually has the name of the character on it, of who you're going to be playing as. Because it's a 2-disc game, if you didn't know that. And it also still has 2 sets of original stickers that come with the game, which is pretty awesome. Leon's disc is on the other side, just to show you there. Next game, Dead Rising 2 Off the Record. Now, I'm quite a Dead Rising fan. I'm not a massive fan of the series, but I had Dead Rising 1 for a launch game for the Xbox 360. Obviously, being a Resident Evil fan and Capcom, I definitely thought I'd try this game out. You know, zombie game, Capcom, how can you go wrong? And it was a really good game and quite ahead for its time. It was like, seeing as it was like one of the first Xbox 360 games, it was sort of like the amount of characters that you could have on one screen at one point really looked fantastic back then. Obviously it's probably aged quite not so well now, but yeah, but this is the second one. When I say second one, it's kind of like Dead Rising 2 plus 1. There was a Dead Rising 2 that came out a couple of years ago. Was a sequel to the first one, which sounds really confusing, but yeah, that featured another character. I can't remember his name too well. Was it Chuck someone? But yeah, I played the demo for it, but I never actually got it, and I don't know why. I guess I was more of a fan of Frank West, who was the main character of the first one. So this is Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, which brought Frank West back. And it's a really enjoyable game. I picked it up for pretty much hardly anything, like a tenner maybe. And it was a really enjoyable game, and it was the first one of the Dead Risings that had online multiplayer. And it was really good, quite fun to play. An enjoyable story as well. I would like to get Dead Rising 3, but I'm not too keen on the Xbox One. Hopefully maybe they'll port it across to the PS4, or maybe not. We'll see. Next one, Vanquish. This is another game that come out at a time and I never got around to getting it, and I've been sort of meaning to pick it up for the past couple of years. So it's made by Platinum Games, which is who made one of my favourite games of all time, being Bayonetta. So I thought, how can you go wrong? It's also published by Sega, and it's sort of like a third-person sci-fi shooter, as it says there. I haven't got around to playing it. I have seen bits of it being played though. And it also does have this really cool 3D effects sleeve on it. Next one, Ghost Squad. Game I've played in the arcades, and I've just sort of wanted to pick it up on the Wii for ages, and I finally got around to it. I picked it up for literally like £2 in like a second-hand shop. And yeah, I haven't played it yet on the console, only on arcade. So even if it's not that good, it looks pretty fun. I'll get around to it soon. Another Resident Evil game, Resident Evil Gold Edition on the Xbox 360. I own the Special Edition tinned version of this on the Xbox 360, but I wanted to pick up the Gold Edition, and another game that I picked up for £2, and which is like insanely cheap, seeing as it has all the DLC and costumes, and it's in nigh on mint condition. Lollipop Chainsaw. This is a game that I've seen that looks quite interesting, that I've sort of wanted to pick up and finally got around to it. I have played a little bit of it. It's quite interesting. Sort of a bit like a Devil May Cry, Bayonetta sort of styled game, but a bit more basic. Basically, as you can see from the cover there, you play a blonde cheerleader with a chainsaw killing zombies. Don't really know what else more to describe the game. So yeah, I managed to pick that up for a couple of £. Pretty enjoyable. And last game in my selection is a game that I have literally had for one day of recording this video. Dragon Ball Z Battle of Z. Now obviously, as you can tell from my videos and my username, I'm a really big Dragon Ball Z fan. And I've majorly bought most of the Dragon Ball Z games on the last gen, I suppose you can call it now, the Xbox 360, with the exception of the Kinect one. So I've been meaning to try this one out, and it's a pretty good game. However, it's sort of a step backwards and then sort of a step sideways for the series. It sort of seems like they've taken... Well, I'll get to the good stuff. The good stuff is it has online co-op, so if you've got friends from this game, it's absolutely fantastic fun to play. Stuff they've taken out is, like, you can't have one-on-one battles anymore, and you can't do transformations in battle, which is really weird for a Dragon Ball Z game. It's basically every character's form is a separate character. So, you know, it's a little bit weird. Plus the lock-on on the game isn't great. It does have a bit of a difficulty learning curve for this game, but enjoyable overall, you know. I wouldn't say this game appeals to anyone but people that know Dragon Ball Z. That basically the story mode on it basically just is the battles, and if you've never watched Dragon Ball Z, you wouldn't have a clue what's going on. Also, another thing I'd like to point out about the front cover, you know, it looks pretty nice, doesn't it? Nice front cover, but I don't know who the artist is on this, but it's kind of quite inaccurate. I mean, since when has Frieza been the same size as Goku? In fact, in a sense, he actually looks even taller and muscular. Does that really make sense? No, it doesn't. And that's the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed watching that. Look out for episode 2 of the games I've purchased recently, and I'll see if I can top this selection. Thanks for watching, and see you guys soon.